Tech Rundown.
I'm grinning because Dr. Rani loves this, but we're going live to Sydney, Australia.
I hope there's a folding phone.
Where we're going to be joined by Davis Fang. Davis, good morning. Evening.
Good evening, everyone.
I can never get it right.
Renee's right.
I'm surrounded by...
Oh, my God.
So I'm surrounded by... Oh, you have got a folding phone. I'm surrounded by Australians literally this morning here. You've got folding phones. That's nice. Right. So let's start where we're meant to start, shall we? Where do you want to start? With Twitter?
Twitter does sound fantastic, doesn't it? We always seem to start with Twitter, don't we? Yeah, and apparently they might have a new CEO. Actually, it's a bit more certain than might because they do have one. In fact, Elon's sort of been hinting that he wasn't going to stay as CEO of Twitter forever, right? You know, ever since his reign of terror, since his $44 billion takeover, which has been a bit of disastrous, he's been saying that eventually he's going to get a new CEO. And luckily this week, he announced that he had hired a new CEO for the app who's going to start in 6 weeks. And then it turns out that it is indeed Linda Yaccarino. And I think that she is the perfect choice to lead the app. Don't we all?
Why do you think that? That's interesting because I've heard quite the contrary from other people.
Really? Okay. Because it comes mainly from her background, I think. She was a former head of advertising at NBC Universal. And at NBC, she really helped monetize the network like never before. She created, well, rather helped create Peacock, their streaming service that's growing really quickly, and she's known to really inspire big brands to advertising relatively controversial scenarios. Like she brought brands onto Sex and the City before it was very popular, and she's also a very staunch negotiator. She's been called the Velvet Hammer by a number of people. And currently, one of the biggest issues that Twitter is facing is getting big advertisers to come back onto the platform. We've seen like the disaster of the YouTube apocalypse in 2017, where advertisers left the platform en masse because of some of the practices that were going on over there. And she seems to be the person who can bring those advertisers back and really help Twitter finally become the everything platform that Elon Musk really wants it to become.
So I think we were talking about this earlier. The fact is that actually with Twitter now, you're just not really sure who your source is. You know, I don't know some of the messages I get, whether they're people or bots. Also, we've had the blue tick fiasco, Elon Musk sacking everyone. So, of course, the companies that have been advertising have all pulled their advertising. So you need someone who's going to pull it together.
You do, but I think it's actually far more simple than that. I think that we live in a world now where big brand advertisers want a left-wing platform. They want left-wing media, they want a left-wing platform, and they're going to pull their brands.
Why? Because that's more likely to appeal to young people.
Yes, and it's because it's the ideology of the currency that's currently here. We've seen this. We've seen new TV channels, new radio channels who can't get advertising because they're considered to be right-wing, even though they're not actually that right-wing, but they're considered to be. So the problem is actually the stance of Twitter and the freedom of speech. Unfortunately, big advertisers don't want freedom of speech. They want the narrative. And so I see this new appointment, the way that they're going to attract new advertisers back to Twitter is to start to censor speech again.
Wow. Has that come up in Australia as an issue, do you think?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure about in Australia specifically. However, we have seen Twitter, like under Elon Musk, censor themselves to the whims of certain governments, especially Turkey recently with the elections that's going on. However, I feel that with this new appointment, I don't think that much is going to change on that regard. Rather, Twitter will sort of hopefully inspire a little bit more confidence among advertisers through its stability rather than the social stance.
Right, okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Google. Before we get to the exciting bit of a folding phone, the tablet...
Yeah, so we did talk about this a couple of weeks ago, as Google is the leader for early leaks. But for, the past 13 years or whatever, since the iPad came out, Google has been desperate in trying to get into that market. They've had failure after failure, and finally they've announced the latest attempt at a tablet. It's called the Pixel tablet, which is very imaginative. It's basically a basic 11-inch tablet that's not too exciting, £599. But what is somewhat interesting is that it comes with a stand as well, so you can turn it into a home hub, which you said you were very excited about,
I am
David.
very excited.
David loves a stand.
I do like it.
That's what you said last time.
Yeah, does the stand fold? No. I mean, look, I've got a stand here. I'm very keen on a stand.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, well, I'm very keen on a stand.
Well, perhaps we were talking earlier about you needing a new iPad.
I do.
Perhaps you can have a new Google Pixel.
Oh, maybe I could.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's interesting.
Very exciting.
Sort of. And just moving on.
Yes.
Come on then, show us your folding phone.
So this was their Google I/O event. So it was their biggest event of the year, and they also launched a number of other items, including the Pixel Fold, which was probably the main announcement, which is a 7.6-inch folding phone, sort of similar in vein to the Samsung ones that we've seen before. So it's sort of like this one, which is an Oppo one, but a little bit bigger. Unfortunately, there do seem to be a few problems. Remember that this is Google's first attempt. It cost £1,749 for a first-generation product. That is ridiculous. It's so expensive, especially how it's got a relatively slow processor, and the bezels, people are complaining, are rather big. However, if you do live in the US, Google is helping you out.
Sorry, what are the bezels? What's a bezel?
The bezel is like the border around your phone. So, for example, the black bit around the screen.
Yeah. Are your bezels big, Renee?
Tiny.
Right.
Yeah, so if you live in the US, you can trade in your iPhone for almost full price. So they're giving you $850 for a new iPhone, but they're not doing the same with their own Pixel phones. They're only giving you something like $400 as trade-in value. So that's a little bit funny. I think it's an interesting product, but way too expensive to become a mainstream success.
So who's going to buy that then?
I guess just early adopters, and no Australians, because it's not coming out in Australia, but I suspect that's quite irrelevant information for most of this audience.
We're
always
keen to know what goes on in Australia.
My sister lives in Australia, David.
Producer Adam's from Australia.
He's not
Vanessa
going to buy the new Pixel.
From Australia. Everyone's from Australia, so they're very interested.
But if you are on a budget, they also announced the Pixel 7a, which is their new budget phone. It's got the same processor as the £1,700 Pixel Fold, so that's quite interesting, despite only being £449. It's got 6.1-inch OLED screen, so it's pretty nice. Unfortunately, the back cover is plastic. That's where they save their money. Does that impact your buying decision, guys? A plastic
How's the bezel?
Cover.
I want to know about the bezel.
I think we've done the bezel to death.
It's not the best, but it's thin enough for the price.
I will have sleepless nights about the size of the bezel. Also, Google Bard.
Yes, so this was their big expansion of Google Bard as well, which we all know is their ChatGPT bot competitor. So what they're doing essentially is taking inspiration from Ask Jeeves. Do we remember Ask Jeeves from the 90s?
I do remember, yes, I remember Ask Jeeves. I mean, it's a brilliant name.
I'm still using it.
No, I like the name Bard as well. I think it's excellent.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves was good.
Yeah. Ask Jeeves was good. What happened to that? Is Ask Jeeves still around?
No, it isn't. But the basic idea was that you ask it a question and it'll generate a few lines and try to answer it. Google's basically trying to do the same, integrating sort of a chat bot into the search. So if you ask, hey Google, what's the best sort of phone to buy? And then it'll give you a whole paragraph probably about why the Pixel's so great. And this is just their easy way to introduce AI into our everyday lives, a bit more accessible than a chat bot. And it's interesting because it's accessible, but also makes it a bit more dangerous because people are less inclined to know what's really going on. But they do say it's in beta, so yeah.
Beta, like beta. Anyway, I'll stop being a pedant.
He contradicted me yesterday on mitochondria.
It's mitochondria. Anyway, right, let's move on away from folding phones. The MG Cyberstar.
I could go for a folding car.
A folding car, right. Tell us about the MG car.
It's sort of a folding car because it's convertible and it's also got butterfly doors, which is very interesting. So I'm sure we all remember MG, 100-year-old British brand, famous for their sports cars, but not really British anymore because after they collapsed in 2005, they're now owned by SAIC, which is a Chinese company. Well, they're sort of going back to their roots now because they've launched the Cyberstar, which is a ridiculous name, but it's the name of their new electric sports car. 0 to 60 in roughly 3 seconds.
Wow, that's good. That's fast.
£55,000. It's very, very fast. But unfortunately, it is made in China and it weighs almost 2 tons. So not quite the lightweight British sports car that we were wanting, but a very interesting car nonetheless.
So when you talk about when you talk about the butterfly doors, it's like the Tesla Model X. Is that what you mean?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Those are called falcon wings. They sort of like do that, like a falcon wings.
Yes.
They've got scissor doors like a Lamborghini, which do that. Butterfly doors are sort of like over like a butterfly.
I see. I just wanted him to do the actions. Just to be annoying.
I always think about when you're in a low car park and you forget that's how your doors open.
So when I had a Model X, that was the issue, as I couldn't get out, or you couldn't get people out.
That is an issue with a car.
Yeah,
you
need
can't
to get out of it. So just in terms of the Cyberstar, just what are the early reviews, thoughts on that?
There's no early reviews yet, as it's just been unveiled, but people are saying that it does look very nice. It's got a great looking interior. The MG4, which is an existing electric car that they make, it's got a rave reviews everywhere. So people have got high hopes, but again, it is very heavy, almost 2 tons for a lightweight British sports car. So I guess we'll see, but it's also going to be very different from the MGs.
Well, we were talking about the big issue with these heavy cars is the multi-storey car parks, which actually aren't built to take that kind of thing. Just do you happen to know, you said it's very quick, do you know that its range if it's an electric car? What sort of range are we talking?
Yes, we don't have official figures yet, but they're claiming they'll be close to 500 miles, which is a lot.
Oh, that's good.
It's very good. So let's just say 400 real world. That's still amazing.
Yeah, really good. Dave, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you
Thank you.
much indeed. That was Davis Fang in Sydney, Australia. I think that's pretty good. If you could do 500 miles or 400 miles on a single charge, that again, I think the Model 3 does about 320 miles. That's a game changer in itself. But to go up, so I think again, but then we've got issues about where you're going to park it, how are you going to charge it.
The weight is a really important thing.
Really
we saw, I think it was in America last week, a multi-storey collapse.
Yeah,
they're not built for these kind
potholes?
of weights. What about potholes? I mean, there are big issues here.
Well, we also should mend our potholes. Possibly.
I know, but if these cars that don't pay any road tax are making